And the first period, which is 13 years, is called the Meccan period. Now, during the Meccan period, the dominant themes within the Quran are primarily what in Arabic is called Tawheed. Now, Tawheed is sometimes translated as monotheism, which is, I don't like that translation. The actual word in Arabic means to make one. If you translated it quite literally, it would be the making of one. But the word means, from a Quranic perspective, is worshiping Allah or God with absolutely no association in that worship. Nothing is associated in that worship with God. Nothing whatsoever. And this is, if you want one word that will give you the theme of Quran, it's this word. And this is why the Muslims have, in the Western comparative religious tradition, they have been called radical monotheists. More so than the Jewish tradition and more so than the Christian tradition. The Muslims are considered radical monotheists. One, there's absolutely no anthropomorphism in Islam. There is no association of God with creation. And probably one of the most definitive verses in the Quran about the nature of Tawheed is لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. There is no thing like God. The early community said, whatever occurs to your intellect, God is other than that. The companion of the Prophet, Abu Bakr, the Siddiq, the second Khalifa, or the first Khalifa after the Messenger, said, your inability to comprehend God is your comprehension of God. Your inability to comprehend God is your comprehension of God. That is the essence of Tawheed. Now, here's where we get in a problem. We say, if God is unknowable, then how do we know God? Right? Now, it's interesting because within the Christian tradition, the first person to really deal with this issue, I mean, there's probably Tertullian, you might have some inklings of it, but the first person really to deal with this issue is probably Kierkegaard, who's a very interesting philosopher. Because Kierkegaard recognizes suddenly that the knowability of God, there's definitely a problem there. Now, the way the Christians have tended to deal with that is through Christ. Christ becomes the object of God's knowability. That God becomes man so that man can understand God. Right? I mean, this is an element within Christian theology. For the Muslim, the knowability of God is through the creation itself. And this is why much of the Quran is focused on telling people to explore the creation itself. Because the creation is seen as a theater of manifestation, of divine manifestation. That God is not entering in, is not incorporated, is not becoming, He is not becoming, embodying Himself into the creation, like incarnation is becoming the flesh. And likewise, what Montgomery Watt would like to suggest is that somehow God has imbibliated Himself. Nice, fancy PhD word. That God became book, right? Which is not true. The Muslims do not look at that, even though they do believe that the Quran is an attribute of God. That this Quran that we have here, we do not say that this is God's, God on earth or something like that. No. Although we do believe that the Quran is the speech of God, and we believe it's the uncreated speech of God, in the eternal meanings that move into the vehicle of language, the intentions of God. That is the speech of God. So Tawheed is a very important theme. The